Hello and welcome to this meeting of the Council of the Town of Oakville on February 24th, 2025. Madam Clerk, do we have any regrets this evening?
Yes, Mayor, we have regrets from Councillor Duddick.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'd like to invite everybody to rise, if you're able, and join us in O Canada. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. I'd like to acknowledge that in 1820, Indigenous people here began welcoming settlers from all over the British Empire. Soon, Oakville people were helping Black people escaping from the United States to settle here too. Today, our Indigenous founding partners are still here enjoying this land with us. Our Indigenous people live with us as neighbors and friends. Our Indigenous white and Black settlers created a community with an attractive degree of harmony and prosperity. In 1857, Ontario recognized Oakville as a town. At Town Hall, all of these years later, we fly the flag of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation beside the flags of Oakville, Ontario, and Canada. We fly our flags together to acknowledge our origins. The livability we are creating attracts people from all over the world and from all over Canada. We offer newcomers a warm and generous spirit of welcome. We offer everyone our founding story so everyone knows what we are part of. We feel sorrow and distress for acts of racism and intolerance suffered across the world, including here in Canada and here at home in Oakville. We want our future to be equitable and inclusive for everyone. We believe the path of truth and reconciliation can unite us all. We hope that everyone will keep well, stay safe, and let us on council know of any chance to be helpful to you and yours. Please let us know anytime you can help increase Oakville's harmony, prosperity, and livability. With that, Madam Clerk, let me ask Council if there are any declarations of pecuniary interest. Councillor Knoll?
Thank you. I wish to declare a pecuniary interest in 8.2 sub 3, the title of the item is Budgets for BIAs. I am the owner, officer and director of a corporation that is a member of the Kerr Village BIA, and in abundance of caution, I wish to declare a pecuniary interest.
Thank you, Councillor. Council, you have the minutes in front of you of January 20th, January 27th, and the confidential minutes of January 27th and February 3rd planning and development meeting. Are there any corrections? And if not, would a mover and seconder assist us to adopt them? Councillor Nanda and Councillor Longo, thank you. Any objection? Madam Clerk, there being none, the minutes are adopted. Council, would you like to move into committee of the whole? If so, we need a mover, Councillor Haslett-Deal, and a seconder, Councillor Lischina, thank you. There being no objection, that's carried. Council, you have 5 consent items. Does anyone wish to separate and discuss one, or would someone like to move them? Councillor Adams and Councillor Haslett-Deal? Councillor Haslett-Deal?
I'm happy to move all, but I would like to pull out 8.3.
All right, Councillor Adams has moved them all, and we will linger on 8.3 for you. Do you have questions or comments?
I just have one question. The Council Strategic Action Plan puts the Community Energy Plan out into 2026, and I'm wondering, given the circumstances with the Community Energy Group, if that can be advanced to 2025, or if you could at some point give us a status update.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you, Councillor Haslett-Thiel, for that. Let me take that back. We can certainly take a look at either bringing forward that deliverable or looking to combine it with another update for you. So let me take that back.
I'd appreciate it. Thanks very much. Happy to move it then, Mayor
Thank
Burton.
you, Councillor. It's moved by Councillor Adams. Councillor McNeice?
Thank you. Through your worship, if I could separate 8.4.
Councillor, go ahead. You have questions or comments?
Yeah, just a question to staff. So related to the MLEO officers, is there any kind of code of conduct, or how do we go about avoiding conflict of interest with them? And I'm mostly concerned if a licensed officer has got a connection into a towing operator.
Thank you for that question, through your worship. So the MLEOs are going to be required to take a training. We've developed a guide for them. They will also be signing off that they understand the rules and requirements of that position. With that, should any of the MLEOs act contrary to their requirements, there would be disciplinary action from that standpoint. It could be retraining for minor issues, for a pattern of behavior. If there's multiple contraventions, then they would lose their ability to be appointed as an MLEO. So we would revoke their authority.
Okay, thank you. So conceivably, would a tow operator be able to employ an MLEO, or would that kind of be a conflict arrangement?
Through you, your worship. So the tow operator would not be employing the MLEO necessarily. The MLEO would need to be appointed by the property owner. So if the property owner has somebody who acts as an agent, they would appoint that person. Now that person could be a security company, it could be a superintendent, it really could be anybody that they choose to act as an agent.
Okay, so just for clarity, so there is a code of conduct, or if the relationship started to get questionable, there'd be something we could point to as to, I guess, related to ethics, that one's not helping the other, that they're independent?
Through you, your worship. So if there is any behavior that's contrary to the requirements of the procedure and or the bylaw, then they could have their authority revoked.
Okay, thank you. Happy to move it, your worship.
Thank you, Councillor. The consent items have been moved by Councillor Adams. Is there any objection? There being none showing. Yes, sure. We're doing 8.1 and 2 and 4 and 5. Any objection? There being none, the consent items are consented to. And now on 8.3, Councillor Knoll is not participating. 8.2, I meant. 8.2. So 8.1, 3, 4, and 5 were just passed. 8.2 is now in front of the House, and Councillor Knoll is not participating. Any objection to 8.2? There being none, that's carried too. And now, Council, you have a confidential consent item. I would like to know if somebody would like to move the public recommendation. Councillor Longo, thank you. There any objection? There being none, that's adopted. And now we come to our discussion items, 10.1, the temporary street occupancy permit for 85 Bronte Road. Now, I understood that this was possibly going to be withdrawn. Councillor O'Meara, why don't you take the floor?
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, thank you very much for that. I would move withdrawal of the item. It's been ongoing for a while, and I think at this point, Councillor McNeice and I would just rather move on from this item.
All right. Is there any objection to the motion by Councillor O'Meara? Councillor O'Meara, congratulations. Your motion carries, and the item's withdrawn. Let's go back to Councillor O'Meara now for a 10.2.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and thank you to Councillor Shi as well for seconding this. The timing actually couldn't, again, be more pressing to us right now, as today the administration in the U.S. Said that they are on track next Tuesday to introduce the tariffs going on. At the same time, while they are negotiating economic deals with Russia right now. So it is very heartening, and it is very concerning that the steps that are being taken, and they impact all of our businesses here, not just in Oakville and Halton, but right across Canada. And I think it's incredible, and it's a great opportunity for this council to raise their hand and to say we support everything that the province and the federal government are going to do in their efforts to support our businesses. I read the motion in the first time, so I don't think it has to be read a second time, but I appreciate that, Your Worship, and I would ask for a recorded vote if that's possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Meara. Councillor Elgar, before I turn to you, let me see if the seconder of the motion, Councillor Shia, has any comments. He doesn't. Councillor Elgar, you're up.
No, I was going to ask for a recorded vote, Mayor Burton, so Sean's done that. I'm happy.
Well, thank you, Councillor Elgar. We're all happy when you're happy. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Burton,
Yes.
Councillor Adams,
Yes?
Councillor Chisholm,
Yes.
Councillor Elgar,
Yes.
Councillor Giddings,
Yes.
Councillor Grant,
Yes.
Councillor Haslett-Thiel,
Yes.
Councillor Knoll,
Yes?
Councillor Luschina,
Yes.
Councillor Longo,
Yes.
Councillor McNeese,
Yes.
Councillor Nanda,
Yes.
Councillor O'Meara,
Yes.
and Councillor Shi.
Absolutely yes.
That passes unanimously.
Thank you, everybody. Now, Council 10.3 calls your attention. This is the item on customer experience in building services and planning and development departments. And we have a presentation. And if you'll give your attention to Ralph Kaminsky, our Director and Chief Building Official, I hope we will all be pleased at progress.
As will I. Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. I am pleased to be here to provide an update on the customer experience in planning and building and development services. I'm just going to quickly go over the current customer experience practices, and I'll give you some insight as to where we're going. Let's start with phone support. Most of our conversations, I should start with email support. Most of our conversations start with email. It seems to be a trend where applicants and inquiring minds make an email request to staff or sometimes members of council, sometimes Service Oakville. We try to provide immediate feedback on the email. It's usually followed up with phone support. Quite often, a deeper level of communication is required, and that best vehicle is the phone support. We spent a lot of time and energy creating online services. We created the Citizen Portal in 2021. We're happy to report there have been some updates, some significant updates to the portal, really increasing the transparency and the usability of our online portal services. We're trying to encourage more use of virtual meetings. We have an excellent tool, Microsoft Teams. It's a great tool for us to be able to speak more directly with the applicant and share some of the information and view some of the documents. It's a little slow on the uptake, but we're hoping that the virtual meetings will become more popular. As far as in-person support, we do have staff available 5 days a week in the area of zoning review. Building services has BSR and plans examiners on staff, and our planning department has a planner on duty. And those services are available during regular business hours, Monday to Friday. We're also working on creating a special office, and I heard from Kendall this morning that it looks like the space right up front at our front counter will be made available. The idea there is we will invite customers who made their way to the the service counter at the town of Oakville. They will be able to meet any member of staff, either virtually or in person if they happen to be in the office. We think that'll really improve the relationship with our customers and our staff. Some of the current challenges we've been facing and the impacts they've had: maintaining compliance and managing workload. There have been a lot of legislative changes lately. We're trying to build more houses faster. We're trying to do more with less. We're trying to create affordable housing. We're trying to solve the homelessness. There are lots of issues that we're trying to resolve, and everyone wants everything done yesterday. We're increasing our demand on digital services. Although in the long term, digital services will provide a much better solution for us, there will be growing pains. And we recognize that in order for us to do better in the future, we might be a little bit slower and a little bit clunky as we work our way through. Some of the miscommunications and delays have been caused by inconsistent tracking, and we are working on that. Has been a bit of a disconnect between Service Oakville, the planning department, and the building department, and we're working very closely using technology and the relationship we have between those three departments to provide a better service. We've also identified that the owner and applicant also have some communication challenges, where sometimes the information between the participants applying for approval is not shared with all parties. We have excellent software, I think we shared with most members of council. The the electronic tracking tool will allow all applicants, stakeholders rather, to see the status of the project. So the planned enhancements as we move forward for 2025 and beyond. We've already hired a contract staff person to deal with our dormant or inactive permits. We flagged permits 5 years and older as inactive or dormant permits, and we have a retired member of the building department who's been retained on contract to go and clean those permits up. This actually reduces the liability for the town and actually provides better service for homeowners should they decide to sell their house and an open permit has now been closed. We're also looking at recruiting a development coordinator. This is a unique position. The role is responsible for ensuring that all site activities are managed appropriately. That position would report back to the appropriate authority and provide eyes on site to say some attention is required. We mentioned Bronte earlier today, and Bronte is an example where a position such as that would be a key contact for the citizens and the councillors. We're evaluating staff levels as a result of the technology I mentioned earlier. There are some growing pains, there are some clunkiness to our process. So at this time, we haven't fully assessed the staffing needs. We realize that we've provided a lot of customer service training for our staff in order for them to use the technology. And you'll see in point 9 that we're looking at extending that customer education to the public. We realize that when we create training for us, it makes our application smoother as we understand the process, but the applicant, especially the one-off customer, would really appreciate a little bit more experience and more training. So we are providing some videos, or working on providing some videos. Within our software solution, there are videos embedded, so that will help people get through, but we're looking even one step sooner, inviting them to understand how they make an application for a planning approval or a building permit approval. We're looking at, if you look at item 7, a mobile inspection app. The purpose of that application would be to bring the contractor and the building inspector closer together. Rather than requiring the portal and the building back-end system, they'd be able to communicate through their mobile devices. And as I mentioned earlier, the technology equipment space that we're looking, again, to improve the relationship between the customer and staff and making them available. All this to develop a town-wide customer experience strategy to improve the delivery of service. So repeating our service outcomes, we're looking for faster application. We believe we can provide faster application when the applicant is more informed. If we can provide information and get it in the hands of the applicant in a timely manner, they'll be able to submit a complete application and we will move that forward. In order for us to do that, we need to enhance our customer transparency. We're looking at putting as much information as we can online. And you've heard earlier this year or last year, we created the planning hub, which allowed information to be readily accessible by applicants and residents of the town of Oakville. With this, we're trying to increase our accessibility. It's not only with electronic, as I said, inviting people to come to the counter and providing the more traditional personal service by sharing information either virtually or in person. We believe all this will increase the trust and provide clear expectations and improve our quality of service. So that's it for my presentation. We're open to questions, and I do have a fine team of people to support me should I not be able to adequately answer your question.
Well, we're going to test you now because
Oh, I
there's a
knew it.
lineup.
Oh, my gosh.
And we're
already.
going to give honors for first to Councillor Giddings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, great presentation and great message. So thank you very much. Some of the bullets, the numbered bullets you had. Number 8 was expand the self-service wizard. And that would be commonly asked questions. Does that provide next steps for them or just general questions in terms of how they go about applying, processing, whatever?
I would say it provides some first steps. I'm sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. I would say that it provides some first step. As we said, if we can get the information in the hands of the applicant before they spend a lot of time and energy, it should create a more enjoyable experience for them. So the idea behind the wizard is it's providing all the information relative to the property and the development that's anticipated.
All right, and number 11 was expand knowledge base and online resources. So is that manually done? Is that a living, breathing, where it brings in the commonly asked questions and queries?
It would be that. It's definitely a work in progress. As we spoke earlier, the legislative changes, the technology changes, it's important for us to stay current with the information. So it would be a living document, yes.
And this is something that can be tracked easily in terms of providing direction to you and your staff in terms of areas of concern or additional help or resources? In terms of identifying the common questions and allowing residents, developers, fast and accurate data points?
So if there's an application in flow, we do have a system in place now that will provide that. We are working on a system in advance of that, so we're working with Service Oakville to see if we can get that information in the hands of the applicant. And with that, there would be a tracking system, yes.
And when will this be up and going?
I think that's 25 forward, so I don't have a date for you. It is something that we're working on.
Good stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Giddings. Councillor Knoll.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thanks for the presentation today and also the online presentation that councillors got a few weeks ago. I thought that was very useful and look forward to the rollout, or the continuing rollout. It's already rolled out. I have a question with respect to the one box. I can't remember, I think it was number 1 or 2, with respect to open building permits. Can you explain that a little bit more? So what does that mean? Are these permits that were taken out but never used, or permits that have not had a follow-up inspection? Like, what exactly does that mean?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, all of the above.
Oh, okay.
Some applications are sitting in our system that have not been issued. There are some building permits that have been issued, but not all the inspections are complete. Okay. So we have approximately 3,500 open permits, and so our inspector will be going individually looking at each property.
And how far back would this go?
Yanni, do you remember? 2000. So we're back to 2000.
Okay, so presumably there are projects that have been completed but have not had their inspections finalized. How would that have happened?
So once an occupancy inspection has passed, the responsibility becomes of the occupant to call for an inspection. Okay. So quite often they forget, so they don't call for an inspection. Sometimes they do it because there's outstanding work to be done. Sometimes they do it because they anticipate it's going to affect their taxes. I'm not sure what the reasons are, but we will provide a system now where we'll monitor them and we will proactively go and inspect a dormant permit before it becomes dormant. So we're doing the cleanup, and on a go-forward basis, we have tools in place that this will not continue.
Makes a lot of sense. I guess that's the difference between a manual system and an automated system.
It is.
In terms of the, I'm trying to remember what I was going to ask you now. In terms of the actual permits that have been taken out but not actually fulfilled, so somebody decides they're going to do their basement, it's too expensive, they walk away from it. Do we provide them with a refund for the fees, or is that simply lost money?
We do provide a refund on permits. There's a schedule in our building bylaw that describes how we provide that refund, but after 4 years of inactivity, their refund is forfeited.
You just predicted my next question. Are we going to be writing a lot of checks as a result of this?
I don't think so.
Okay, and very, very last question is, when does a permit automatically drop off the system, or does it ever?
It doesn't automatically drop off. No, there's an action that needs to be taken by staff in order to physically close that file.
So there's no legislative period at which a permit must be utilized before it just disappears, or is there?
No, there's 2 time frames. When a permit is issued, construction must start within 6 months.
Okay.
And a permit may be revoked if there's inactivity for 1 year.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Nanda.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. Thank you so much for the presentation. I really appreciate it. I did want to first say thank you to Gabe and his team and the whole team. There have been some situations and issues that have been difficult, and we're seeing that we're trying to become more efficient and improve. But I am grateful for some of the issues that we've had to deal with, and we've been able to work together as a team and been able to fulfill some promises and, get some permits done. So I did want to say thank you to that. I did notice under the customer experience challenges that you speak about customers seeking design advice and more advice. So in a normal process, when you're saying that applicants are coming for design, usually what is the process of how much advice you give them versus how much pressure they're putting on our staff? The reason I'm asking is I'm wondering, how understaffed are we now? Because I know that I've spoken with Gabe and your team members that some of the issues in what we're trying to resolve too is because we don't have enough manpower. So how much pressure are our applicants now putting on our team to try to get through the design process of actually putting in an application?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's normally an uninformed applicant that is relying on building staff or planning staff to guide them. And the regulations actually allow a homeowner to provide their own drawings and make their own application. And that's one of the challenges. So the regulations are saying you have the right to do this, but you might not have the knowledge to do that. So you come to the counter and you're saying, why can't you help me? Because I'm allowed to do this. So it's that balancing act. And there's a risk of liability from staff. If I tell you what to do, and then you do, and then you realize there was another option, then you're going to be disappointed at staff. Well, you told me I had to do this, right? So it's how do we help someone without them turning around and suggesting that we encourage them to do something that they didn't necessarily have to do.
Thank you. And how understaffed would you say you are right now to try to fulfill some of these things that we're seeing in the report now? How many more people would you need to try to, catch up?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't think I can answer that question today. As I mentioned, with the technology changes, there will be advantages to the technology, but there are growing pains and there are challenges. It's always slower as you learn a new product than it is once you've mastered it. So we're looking at this year to assess the technology, how well it's working, how much of an improvement it's actually creating, and also balancing the service. To your point about how much help can we provide, the idea would be with some of the time savings we have, we'd like to turn that around and improve our involvement with the applicant and help the applicant through our process.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks very much for the presentation. It was great. Just a question to buttress off of the last line of questions. The permits that people pay through the building permits, how much of that funds our staff and funds the building department?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the building department in Oakville is fully funded by permit fees. So 100% of the revenue from building permit fees funds the building department. Excess funds are stored in the building reserve account.
Okay, so if we were to decide that we needed to readdress the staffing complement, that would be reflected in the building permit fees then, is that correct?
Correct. That's where the assessment would take place, yes.
Perfect. And then I guess the last question from that, because I've had this comment said to me a few times, but I'd be interested in your comments. From the developers or architects or engineers who do this, do they seem that that they would be unwilling to pay more in fees if they knew that they were getting the timelines that they could depend on? Does that seem to be a gap for them, or is it more about stable, predictable timelines?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in my experience, the building community would rather pay more for faster service. I guess for them, it's more profitable to have a permit in a timely manner. They're gonna save more money on carrying costs than they would in building permit fees. There was a pilot project that I'm familiar with, excuse me, that the city of Kitchener ran, where in the evenings they would provide for double permit fees, same day permit, for small sheds and decks, and that was a very successful program.
Interesting. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Mr. Kaminsky. Council, thank you for all your questions. Would one of you like to move receipt? Councillor O'Meara, thank you for your quick hand. Any objection? There being none, Councillor O'Meara, that motion is successful. Council, we need a motion to resolve into a closed meeting session for the purpose of dealing with the security of the property of the municipality or local board with respect to item 11.1, cybersecurity update. Who would volunteer that motion? Councillor Knoll, thank you. Any objection? There being none. We're going to resolve into a closed session. There's nothing left on the public agenda. So when we come out of camera, we'll be receiving the information that we're about to receive. That is to say, we'll be passing a motion to receive the information, and we'll be ending the meeting. So nobody's going to miss anything except this item. Madam Clerk, would you have the forces at hand turn us into a session closed to the public in accordance with the resolution?
Recording
Would you
stopped.
like a 5-minute break while we do all that? All right, council has resumed public session, having resolved into a closed meeting session for the purpose of dealing with the security of the property of the municipality or local board in respect to item 11.1, cybersecurity update. And Councillor Giddings has kindly moved the public recommendation that the cybersecurity presentation from the IT Solutions Department be received. Any objection? There being none, that is carried. Thank you, everybody. We need a motion to rise and report to council. Councillor Schitt, thank you. And is there any objection? There being none, that carries. I rise and report the committee of the whole has met and made recommendations on the consent items, public and confidential, the discussion items, public and confidential, as noted by the clerk. Council, you have your status of outstanding issues, your information items. Is there any new business or regional reports or questions that anyone wants to raise? Okay. Any requests for reports? All right. Then I'd like mover and seconder for consideration and reading of the bylaws. Councillor Chisholm and Councillor Adams, thank you. Any objection? There being none, the bylaws are considered read and passed as listed in the agenda. And I would now like to turn our attention to a little bit of fun, and it's kind of a bittersweet, happy, sad thing all at once, which is happy for Vicky Titanic, our clerk, because she gets to retire. Sad for us because Vicky Titanic, our clerk, has clerked her last meeting with us here tonight. And I wanted to say a few words, and then we have a little token of our admiration for you. This is a 40-year story. So 40 years ago, Vicky Titanic began working in the municipal sector. She worked with Mississauga, she worked with Etobicoke, which became part of Toronto. And then 21 years ago, she became our assistant clerk. And 11 years ago, she became our clerk. And then, boy, did she get busy. Vicky was involved in the amazing exercise we went through to create the 7th Ward that Councillor Nanda and Councillor Schitt now represent. And I remember how much work that was, Vicky. And we are very grateful to you for how that worked out. But then she improved our municipal freedom of information access procedures. She introduced paperless agendas, and she implemented our electronic meeting processes. You may remember that little thing called a pandemic that led us down that road. And then on top of that, she and her team consolidated our bylaws and created our new bylaw search tool. And it was in that process that we learned that we have 17,000 bylaws, which was just a few more than I thought we had. And the numbers aren't done in this story. Vicki has shared that she's looking forward to spending time with her second grandchild, and she's going to do two things with her new time. That's spend time with her family and travel. So I hope you send us postcards from the exotic locations. And Peter, if you'd assist me, I want to ask council to join me and staff in congratulating Vicki on her successful and long career and thanking her for all she did for the town and wishing her well in retirement. And that might be the nicest end to a meeting that we've ever had. Thank you, everybody, and good night. Pardon? Typically, no, but let her surprise us.
Typically, no, the quietest clerk you've ever had. But it has certainly been an extreme pleasure working for this council and the councils before you. It's been quite a ride, and I've really enjoyed my career here at the town of Oakville, and thank you so much.
Thank you. You made our ride better.